All right, we're going to get into football now. John is here. There was like 150 people at Eagles practice today. I feel that's excessive. I mean, John tweet there was about 50 count. What was the official count on that?
Well, I think at Doug's press conference, which was early, there were about 50 reporters, about 10 hard cameras I counted. And then it just kept growing as the day. And if you follow me on Twitter, you saw the picture I tweeted out of the line to get into the Eagles locker room. Give Les Bowen the credit. He was counting. He had 76, I believe.
It's a lot.
And of course, there's only 90 people on the team right now. So you can imagine one of the Eagles PR staff told me it was the largest media contingency since he's been there, and he's been there for a long time. And this is typically, on a normal day, it's the largest media contingency in the NFL, but today was absolutely absurd.
Yeah, John tweeted out the line for Space Mountain or the Eagles locker room. I mean, there's a line of reporters. I mean, it's unbelievable. Was it normal media, or was there an influx of unknown national, correspondents and unknown people, unrecognizable people based on yesterday's news?
Yeah, there were some national people I know who cover the NFL. There were also some people I don't know, so I don't know where they were from. Or where they were working for. So it was both, and the Eagles knew it was coming. They had, I mean, typically the people that cover the team every day, we all know the security people, and we just walk in and out of the facility. They had a checkpoint set up today because there were so many extra people. We knew it was coming. Because of the controversy with the White House. And the Eagles are hoping it leaves by tomorrow, and I think it will for the most part, but really didn't get any information. I mean, Doug was very evasive in his press conference. The players were all on the same page as far as not wanting to discuss who was going, who was not going. So they're trying to keep sort of move forward and try to get past this and focus on football. And we'll see how quickly it evaporates. I think it has a lot to do with if Donald Trump just lets it go, which I applaud the Eagles for one piece of the strategy, and that they stopped engaging after the White House accused them of a political stunt. The Eagles didn't release a statement. They said they were not going to release a statement. They haven't. Doug Pederson didn't want to answer that question today. And I think that's the proper way to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, because, I mean, at some point, the president's got to deal with real issues, and is not going to have the time for this nonsense. So I think that
allegedly
was a proper strategy. And I think, by the way, it's a strategy the NFL should adopt.
Yeah.
I think they should stop acknowledging the president when he talks about the league.
Yeah, and Peterson basically came out today. I mean, he was like pseudo Brett Brown today, taking the bullets for probably questions the owner should be answering here, right? I mean, he was asked right off the bat. Now, typically they have little parentheses on who asked the questions at the press conference.
Well, they didn't know who they were.
Right. Well, that was not.
I mean, yeah, they know who we are, the guys who are there every day. But today there were so many people who they really don't even know who they are. That they just didn't do it today. But yeah, I mean, Jeffrey Lurie should have come out and spoke. I don't think there's any question about it. That was unfair to Doug Pederson. Look, I'm not going to feel sorry for him. He's the face of this organization from a football standpoint. It's part of his job. But I think Jeffrey Lurie's got to understand this is a little bit different. This is not something where you can wait to your State of the Team address or the NFL meetings. He should have stood up there and took the questions because bottom line, it's his organization. And the one aspect that I tried to nail down today and I just couldn't from multiple people. I asked Doug, I asked people in the locker room, when was this decision made? And nobody wants to answer that question. Brandon Brooks, though, kind of let the cat out of the bag, which, again, if you want to blame the Eagles for anything, blame them for this. They had a meeting with the team on Monday, and they were scheduled to go to the White House on Tuesday. So on Monday, they had not locked down who was going, and that's just unexcusable.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can – I said yesterday, look, I think all parties have some blame. The Eagles have blame. The White House has blame. That they engaged in the way that it all went down has blame. And then Pederson says, the question was, what was your role in trying to figure out the best course of action for the White House visit? I mean, how much say do you think Pederson realistically had?
I don't think he had any say, and nor should he. I mean, that's above
my point,
his
right?
Pay grade.
Yeah, that he would have. You know, he said he was looking forward to going, and allegedly he was one of the names that was going to go.
Yeah, he was going to go, and he did say he was looking forward to it. But this was a Jeffrey Lurie, Don Smolensky decision, and those are the guys who ultimately did it. From what all I was able to gather today, Doug was going, Jeffrey was going, Don was going, Nick Foles was going. I believe 2 other players were going. And I don't even want to mention their names because they haven't been out there, and I think they would receive blowback, and I don't think they deserve that.
Which, by the way, they should. Blowback from the fans or their teammates? I'm not asking you to release the names.
Not their teammates. I mean, there's a certain, and not all of the fans, just a certain group of fans who hate the president. Right. Let's be honest. And there's 2 camps, one that loves him, one that hates him. And I think the one that hates him would have targeted and said some rude things to the players. That's, I mean, all you have to do is go on social media to see that.
Which is ridiculous.
So I don't think that's fair from their standpoint.
That's the whole point.
And then,
if there were certain players who wanted to go, good for them. And if there are certain players who didn't want to go, that's their right. Like, the fact that anybody has an opinion on it, that's the problem.
Well, exactly. I agree with you. Those who wanted to go should have gone, and those who didn't shouldn't have. Right. I mean, I think it was pretty simple. And that's where I criticize the Eagles. And that's the only place I criticize the Eagles.
Same.
Look, I don't think it was a political stunt like the White House accused. But I do.
What
think
kind of political gain do the Eagles have? Are they running for office?
The theory from the administration, no, is that they were trying to embarrass the president because of differences with him politically. I don't believe that. I'm just telling you the White House narrative.
Right. No, I'm not yelling at you.
Yeah. From my perspective, I think it was incredibly poor planning by the Eagles, and I think they deserve criticism for that because I think they could have avoided this by locking this down real quickly. You shouldn't be still asking the players, do they want to go, do they not want to go, less than 24 hours before the trip. That should have been locked down.
This is one of those perfect times for, well, the Eagles have never won a Super Bowl joke, so how would they know?
But that really, I mean, that's like just common sense on any trip. If you're going to take a large group, I mean, if you're taking your family to Washington, D.C., you sort of want to get everybody on board. Are you going or you're not going? That's pretty simple to me. So
yeah, but I'm a perpetual procrastinator, so I can understand.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It is incredible procrastination. I don't know why, if they were just hoping the problem would go away on its own. But my point is, I think it exacerbated the issue, and it didn't need to. Yeah. And you gave an opportunity for the White House to accuse you of some untoward things.
Is that to suggest then, if the Eagles told the White House 2 weeks ago, 5 people are coming, they would be okay with that?
No, I think they would have canceled it. But I don't think they can accuse the Eagles of a political stunt. I think they can make that accusation with at least some heft behind it because of the late acknowledgement and the change. Because, again,
people are too cynical. I don't look at it as a political stunt. I look at it as you're not organized.
Well, exactly. And that's how I look at it. I look at it your way. But you're dealing with, let's be honest, you're dealing with a president that's got a big ego and who knows that Jeffrey Lurie doesn't like him and knows there's a lot of
but Jeffrey Lurie was reportedly going.
Yeah.
So he was being the bigger man.
Yeah, but I'm trying to, and again, this is not me speaking. This is the White House and what they're claiming. They're claiming that Jeffrey Lurie and a lot of the players who don't like the president were doing this specifically to embarrass the president. I don't agree with that. I think it was a lack of organization, as you said. I'm just saying, if you batten down your plans even a week earlier, there's no room to make that argument from the White House. So I think the Eagles could have avoided that part of it, and they got all those questions today about the Sarah Sanders calling it a political stunt and a bait and switch. And they didn't need to get all those questions, and they were angry that they were getting those questions from us, but they should be angry at themselves because we have to ask those questions.
Well, guess what? There you can make the case that you guys should have asked more questions, even though he said, I'm not going to answer anymore. You can make the case that there was a room full of people that were only there to ask those questions.
Well, and yeah, I mean, the Eagles knew it, and they were prepared for it. Doug typically talks for 15 minutes. He talked for about 8 minutes today. So he cut it in half. He was obviously very terse. He a lot of short answers.
Great. Team's great.
Really didn't like my question about logistics. He gave me the death stare. But again, you have to answer these questions. You guys made the mistake. And from Doug's standpoint, yeah, it's probably not his problem, but the reality is that's all we have. He's the face of the organization, us, because Jeffrey's not talking, Howie's not talking.
By the way, I made it halfway through. I'm at the bottom of the transcript here, and I see your question. Can you just clear up the logistics of the organization? He says, again, I'm not going to discuss particulars of that trip, so I will give you credit for at least asking a question that all those people were there for.
Yeah, and I tried to go about it as because he didn't want to talk about, and understandably, about the accusations or about who was going, who wasn't going, all the personal stuff, and that's his right because it's an individual decision for each player. So I tried to go at it a different way and just try to get the facts down. When was the decision made to send a contingency? And that was to nail them down as far as the White House's version, which is they got 81 names on Thursday, and the Eagles shifted it on Monday, which, to be honest, that part of it from the White House is truthful. And that is where the Eagles got in trouble, at least in my estimation.
John McMullen at JF McMullen. Follow him on Twitter to find out to look at the pictures of how many people were there. And of course, his Eagles coverage is fantastic at JF McMullen. There was football stuff happening. Oh, by the way, Malcolm Jenkins, I guess he didn't speak. He just held up a bunch of signs.
Yeah, I didn't speak. There were about 40 people. I tried to get as close as possible. I was talking to other players when he finally got in there. And he just, anytime anybody asked him a question, he would just hold up a placard he had prepared with information about the things he's been fighting for in his social activism. The first one was basically "You Aren't Listening," which was directed at the president, obviously, and a lot of other people who think players were protesting the national anthem, which is untrue, certainly from Malcolm's standpoint, untrue. and just held up a bunch of placards, and it just added to the circus of the sideshow of it all.
There was news that Carson Wentz has been cleared for 7-on-7.
Yeah, and he was out there doing 7-on-7s. It's pretty amazing.
Brace or no brace?
No, he's got a brace. He's going to have a brace for a while. Talked to an independent surgeon. I mean, that brace is going to be on probably throughout this season, whenever he gets on the field. That's just sort of the status quo of how you approach those types of injuries. Players always come back wearing braces. So that's going to be a part of his equipment for the entire season, most likely. But, yeah, I mean, Doug always hedges. He was thrilled to get a football question, but he always hedges about timetables, and rightfully so, because you don't want to put any extra pressure. But it's pretty clear he's way ahead of schedule. We didn't think we'd be seeing him in individual drills probably till training camp.
I agree.
And he's done every individual drill, and now he's doing 7-on-7s with the team. So he's not obviously cleared for team drills, but in an environment where they can control it like 7-on-7s, he's out there. He's going to be out there. So there's no other way to put it. He's way ahead of schedule.
I do want to ask one thing about Pederson again. I mean, he did – you were there. I didn't hear the press conference, but did he seem genuinely disappointed? Because he was asked, like, do you think that other teams should go to the White House in the future? And he said, I'm not going to speak for other teams, but I was looking forward to it. And he said, if you win a championship, you want to be recognized for that. And he says, I think it's great. I was looking forward to it. Like, was he genuinely disappointed maybe about their team not going?
I don't think he was disappointed about the team not going as far as individuals making the decision not to go. I think he was disappointed that no contingency went. And as he said, he was looking forward to it. He was going with his wife. And he had mentioned that a couple weeks ago as well. And by the way, I said on Twitter and on the show yesterday, I was looking forward to it. I just think it's not a political statement. It's just a pretty cool thing to be on the South Lawn of the White House. And I think that's how Doug was approaching it. So I think on a personal level, as he said, he was disappointed and looking forward to it. But on a team level, he respects, and one of the reasons he's become the coach he is so early in his career is because he respects his players and their ability to make their own decisions on things like that.
John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. Check out today's practice report, considering more information on Carson Wentz out there. You also mentioned that, Darren Sproles not there?
No, Darren
Sproles,
there.
Is he cleared?
No, he wouldn't be cleared anyway. But a lot of
his injury was in what, September?
Yeah, week 3. So
would you say would you say Wentz is ahead of Sproles?
No. If you've seen Sproles, the Eagles have put up some little videos of his rehab. I mean, he's way ahead. He's going to be fine.
All right.
To go for the season. He never attends OTAs, really. And that's not new this year. And he's another guy. I mean, arguably, people don't know this. Pound for pound, Darren Sproles might be the strongest player on the Eagles. He's sort of a workout warrior. So the Eagles know he's in shape. They know he does what it takes to be in shape. So they're not really concerned about him missing OTAs. He'll be back next week for the mandatory minicamp, and he'll be, I imagine, working in individual drills, but probably not team drills. That would be my guess. And there's a lot of guys, but most of the guys, remember, the Jason Peters, Jordan Hicks, Chris Maragos, players like that, they're here, but they're not in team drills, and that's where Darren would be if he was here. But he and Michael Bennett continue to miss the voluntary work, but they'll both be at mandatory minicamp.
If Doug Pederson was not discussing this today or getting asked a lot of these questions in roundabout ways, what would he be talking about? What was the other than Wentz, what was the other main happening?
Well, I don't think literally that's the only football question he got. There was a little talk about Michael Bennett not being here, and he sort of asked a rhetorical question, would you be worried about Michael Bennett, pointing out that and I've said it a lot, these OTAs aren't all that meaningful for veteran players like that. So the Eagles aren't concerned about him. Wentz would obviously be the top story. I think, one of the issues is Doug talks, when he does talk, before practice, then we see practice, and you don't have to disclose injuries this time of year in the NFL. And two guys who didn't practice today were Sidney Jones and Donnell Pumphrey. I think they were both out on the field, so it's nothing serious. It was probably just maintenance, but that's sort of a question that if he was available tomorrow, he would be getting, but unfortunately he's not available till next week.
All right, Johnny Mac on hand with about 175 other reporters today. Take out the pictures at 97.3 at JF McMullen on Twitter, and read more about today's Eagles OTAs at 97.3 ESPN.com. All right, John, take care.
All right, take care, Mike.